you a musician interested in improving your performance? Welcome to Notes on Jazz. I'm your host, Keith Davis. If you want to learn more about jazz improvisation, harmony, and composition, or just want to improve your piano skills, this is the place for you. We'll be hosting interviews with fellow musicians, offering tips and techniques on study and practice, and lots of other cool stuff. Whatever instrument you play, or if you're a vocalist, you will find something helpful and interesting here. So come hang out with us at Notes on Jazz. All right, welcome to Notes on Jazz. I'm Keith Davis. I'm happy to welcome Greg Tardy, a great saxophonist, composer, recording artist. He lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's played with a lot of great people, and I'm happy to have him visiting us here on Notes on Jazz. So, hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing great, Keith. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for doing it. I appreciate it a lot. We haven't actually met in person yet, but we've had several conversations on the phone, and it's not too far from where I live to where you live. One of these days, we'll hope we can play some music together.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. So I started this podcast not aimed kind of at younger people that are learning about jazz, but it's actually for everybody that likes music, that likes jazz, and that's why I wanted to talk to people like yourself that are, well known in this world of jazz, and just find out some about your background and about your current projects. We'll get to some of all that, I hope, during this.
Okay,
but maybe we could start off by just giving me a little bit about your background. Like, where'd you music?
Okay, well, the short version of this is that I'm from New Orleans originally, but I've lived all over the place because my dad's profession moved us around a lot. And but I'd say that my parents were both opera singers, and my mom eventually went to jazz, but that's but much later. And I'm the youngest of three kids, and both my brother and my sister ahead of me played musical instruments, and so it was just natural for me to join in. So my instrument was clarinet. So once I went to middle school, high school, it became very apparent to me that I wanted to pursue a career in classical clarinet. Yeah. And so that was my main focus. And by that time I was living in Milwaukee, and but every now and then I would get drafted to play the saxophone. It was one of those things where a band director gave me a saxophone, say, hey, we need a fourth horn part on this thing. So can you, here's a fingering chart, learn this chart and play with it. So that was basically how that started. And it was something I just did for fun. It was just something I did for fun. But when I went to college, I was at a small school called Carroll College in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And my band director at the time, Robert Halseth, he basically said, hey, I got a gig for you. And then he recommended me for this polka band. And, and so I started, it was fun. I did that for a summer, and it was just kind of cool. But got to see Milwaukee Brewers games for free, and got a little bit of money and a little bit of food. So, but then after that, then I got recommended for a funk fusion band called The Crew that used to play around the Milwaukee area. And that band was starting to get a little popular around the area. And so it was one of those things where I need to actually start practicing. And that's when I first started seriously practicing the saxophone. And then eventually my brother, who was studying with David Hazeltine at the time, great jazz pianist, he kept on telling me, you need to check out some jazz. And he turned me on to this guy, John Coltrane. And that's once I heard him, then I'm like, wow, and then that's when everything took off. That's when I got serious.
I think Coltrane had that effect on a lot of people.
Yeah. I
remember the first time I heard A Love Supreme, I was just like, wow, what is this, man? That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. So about how old were you when you started playing professionally, like playing for the polka band or playing for the funk band?
The polka band, that was, I believe that was the summer after my freshman year, so that was 19. But then I started playing with, maybe I was 20 actually.
Yeah.
Maybe I was 20. But then I started playing with the fusion band the fall after that. Yeah, I believe that's what it was. It was the summer after. No, okay. No, I was 19, and then it was like a year after that I got recommended for the fusion band. So I was 20 at that point.
So 1920.
Yeah.
And prior to that, you didn't have any training or playing any kind of jazz or improvisational music.
No, I mean, my brother and we used to get together and jam. I mean, he was a trumpeter. He still plays, not professionally, but we used to just do. I mean, we both were very blessed to have good ears, and so we used to just have fun and try to play songs off the TV theme songs and see who could get them, and just for fun, and we just kind of jam around together. At a certain point, I don't know where it came from. Maybe maybe we kind of borrowed it from my band director in high school, but somehow we obtained. Maybe my brother got it. I don't know, but it was It was like the Jamie Aebersold Volume 1 LP. That tells you how long ago it was ago. I don't know. It just was there in the house. So when I started getting serious. Then I had this record, and I would just jam along with it. I didn't have lead sheets to anything, just a record, right? Nice. And so I just practiced jamming along with that, and my brother would do that too, but we're just more or less doing it by ear. We didn't know what any of that stuff was. So
right. So when did you start actually studying and finding out about all that, but the more technical aspects of it?
Well, shortly after I started getting serious with train, I first took some private lessons with a local saxophonist, local legend in Milwaukee named Berkeley Fudge, and I took like maybe 2 or 3 lessons from him. I think 2 or 3 lessons. The stuff he was telling me was way over my head, but I took a lot of notes. And then I took a semester with David Hazeltine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then he broke down the basic aspects of bebop, and so I was able to take what I learned from Berkeley Fudge and mix it with the stuff that I got from David Hazeltine, and that pretty much set me up. It was everything I really needed to know in order to really, really get started. Right. And then eventually, flash ahead a couple of years, I moved back to New Orleans. I attempted to go back to school at the University of New Orleans, and I had a class with Ellis Marsalis, and I had some other stuff. Quite frankly, at that particular point, I was very poor. I was very poor, and I wasn't in class a whole lot. I was mostly on the street trying to make money to eat that day. So it was, unfortunately, I think I could have gotten a lot more out of that experience. I was supposed to be taking lessons with Victor Goins. He was teaching there. I think we got maybe one lesson, maybe one lesson. That was it for the whole semester. But that he pointed me in the right direction as well. So it was kind of but I'd say more or less I'm more of a self-taught player. I consider myself to be, with the foundation of the stuff that I had gotten from all the above. I'd say that the bulk of it I was self-taught. Yeah. And then as I became more as I started to play with cats, then I would just start asking a lot of questions. Yeah. I'd be up there playing with Joe Lovano, and I'm like, hey, man, how do you get such a big sound? Or people like that are playing with Dewey Redman, and he showed me some stuff about like how he did his reeds, and Mark Turner and I used to play together a whole lot. And obviously, he's a very, very high level technical, and always high level player. And so I used to bug him all the time, trying to pick his brain about how he did this and how he did that, and other great young players that some of which that young and old players that some of which you probably never heard of. But we share information. And so now as an educator, the bulk of this guy named Terry Dean, right? He was a young player. He was a former student of Pat LaBarbera, and he was extremely high level. Unfortunately, he passed away very young. But he was like a young genius, and we used to hang out. He actually was a horn repairman in New York. He was like one of these genius guys that could just he could just figure out anything and just be really good at it. So he started repairing horns, and he became like a really sought after saxophone repairman in New York. And cats like Josh Redman and Seamus Blake and Mike Brecker and people were going to him for a minute. And before he moved away to back to Canada where he came from. But he used to give me advice all the time. And so I'd go and get my horn fixed, and he'd be like, you really should change your mouthpiece and change this, or you really should change your embouchure, blah, blah, blah. And he was such a great player that I would listen to him. And so that's where I've gotten a lot of stuff from, just these informal. Yeah.
I like to say I learned everything I know from bass players,
Yeah.
As a piano player, you play with bass players, and you say, man, they tell you, give you hints. I'd try to play in this chord there instead, or do this, or ask, what is that? What did you do there? And I mean, that's. Yeah. But so in that conversation, that was great. But my question is, how did you get from trying to survive on the street to playing with Joe Lovano and Mark Turner? That's what I.
Okay. So what happened is that Nicholas Payton and I used to play a lot. We'd get together. Not just Nicholas. There was a really, really great crop of young players down there. I mean, Bryce Winston was down there, who wound up being in Terrence Blanchard's band for many years, and Chris Thomas, who was in Josh Redman's band. Brian Blade was down there. Obviously, you know about him, and there were like a whole bunch. Peter Martin was down there. Eric Rivas, who's Branford's bassist to this day. Neil Kane, who's Harry Connick Jr.'s bassist, and of course various members of the Marsalis clan. Jason and Delphio. Wessel Anderson was in Baton Rouge, and he would come down and play all the time. So basically, it was all. I can go on. There's so many of these incredible young players, and some of them went on to be very, very famous. But we used to get together at places like Cafe Brazil and other Cafe Istanbul, these places right along Frenchman Street in New Orleans, and we just play for tips. And so that as well as some gigs at Snug Harbor, which is a famous jazz club down there. But Nicholas, much to my surprise, he got the gig with it wasn't a surprise he got the gig with Elvin, but much to my surprise, he actually recommended me for it once Robbie Coltrane left. And so it was kind of so basically I kind of went from playing on the street, and I was playing with some second line groups as well, the early rendition of the Soul Rebels brass band, stuff like that. But I went from playing on the street to all of a sudden touring around the world with Elvin like overnight. And it was, which was really, really incredible, because he was such a hero of still is such a hero of mine. Yeah, sure. And he was very gracious to me, because I didn't feel like I was anywhere near ready for that gig. But he was but he served as a mentor to me, and he would get on me about things I needed to work on, things like that. And then over the next couple of years I was in the band, I improved a whole lot. And so then I finally moved to New York City. I moved to New York City, and then I started getting in other bands. First it was a Jason Lindner big band, and then it led to eventually I was playing with Tom Harrell, and did some gigs with Steve Coleman, other things, and eventually I was blessed to do a CD with the Impulse label of my own. And so it all kind of just went from there.
Yeah, nice. So was that your first recording under your own name?
Actually, I did one that's really hard to find down in New Orleans. Milton Baptiste, he was a brass, one of the New Orleans brass band leaders, and he was a producer. And he basically asked me if I wanted to do a CD, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I thought it was going to be the only one I'd ever do. And it's called Crazy Love, but it's really, really hard to find. And it's
I saw it on your website.
Yeah, it's kind of I'd say that, I mean, I was really green. I'm not too crazy about my playing on there, but it's a good documentation as far as my band was Nicholas Payton on trumpet, Peter Martin on piano, and both of them were 19, I think, at the time. And Eric Rivas, who was in his mid-20s, he was on bass. Brian Blade was on drums, and I think he was only like 19 or something like that. And so, while my mother, who by then was a jazz vocalist, she sang on a song, and Milton played on the song. So it was actually a good documentation of just seeing where all those guys were at that time. And I guess if you want to hear me when I'm getting it together, then that's good. But I'd say most people know Serendipity. That's my Impulse project as being my first. That's the first one that everyone actually heard. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, I have a couple of your CDs in there. I think they're great.
So thank you. Praise the Lord.
Actually, I was looking at some of your stuff on just on your gallery last night. You were playing somewhere in Atlanta, Churchill Grounds. That's my hometown.
Oh, yeah.
And checking out some of your videos and some great stuff. I recommend it. Your website is called gregtardy.com. Is that correct?
GregTardy.com.
Yeah, .com, right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll say it again, and I'll put it in the notes to the podcast as well.
Yeah.
So how did you get from playing in all these bands and touring, doing all this touring, to teaching? How did you get into teaching, and how did you end up in Knoxville?
Oh, that's kind of well, the short version of it is I was invited to come down and do a performance with the Knoxville Jazz Orchestra. Yeah. That's a big band here in Knoxville. It's a very, very good big band that brings in all kinds of well-known, phenomenal artists. John Clayton's been here multiple times. Regina Carter, Wycliffe Gordon, Jeff Keezer, blah blah blah. I can go on. And so basically, I was invited to come down and play, and I just really had a good vibe from the city, and I expressed that to Vance Thompson, who's the leader of the Knoxville Jazz Orchestra, and he put me in touch with Mark Bowling, who was the area coordinator at the time, and of the jazz program. And we had conversations about me possibly coming down and teaching. But then the thing that wound up happening is that we all kind of, I don't know, I think they didn't have the funding for it at the time. And then I decided to, it's a very long story, but I decided to pursue, I've got a spiritual journey, and I basically left the scene for about 4 years to work in a mega church in New York. And so I was off the scene. But then what wound up happening is I started developing some carpal tunnel issues in my hands, and they were very, very problematic. And I had to step down from that position. And it was, but the very day I had the phone in front of me, and I'm essentially about to call the music director at the church to let him know that I was stepping down. And the phone rings. I pick it up, and it's Mark Bowling. And he's like, "Hey, you wouldn't still be interested in that job, would you be at the school?" And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. That's great, man.
that's like, that I can only describe that as being like an act of God. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm moving to Knoxville. And so that was after not speaking with him for about 4 years. That's great. And And so I've been here for the last 12 years, and thankfully, all my hands are all good. I'm
Good.
playing, touring, writing music.
Playing great, man.
Praise God. Yeah.
Yeah. Great, man. So I want to come back to ask you about what you called your spiritual journey. I'd like to come and talk about that a little bit more. But first, while we're on this topic of teaching, I'd like to ask you, how do you approach teaching? Like, how do you take a young player? What kind of guidance do you give to young players? And I'd like you to speak to that in reference to what we're doing here. Like if I had a young player that was listening to this podcast, what would you like to say to that person? Like, what would you recommend to them? You know?
Well, there are a lot of things that I've learned the hard way. Like I said, I had, since I didn't learn the saxophone under a teacher, and I didn't, and I basically mostly self-taught on the, as far as jazz goes. And there are some things I could always do naturally. It's like I said, my family, like everyone in my family, we all have good ears. Perfect pitch or really good relative pitch and stuff like that. So there are a lot of things that I could just do naturally. And but then there was a certain musical intuition thing that I had to try to figure out, like, how do I teach other people to do what I just do naturally? And that's been like something that I'm constantly, even to this day, trying to figure out better ways to try to break down. But I'd say that the first thing is make sure for a young saxophonist, make sure that you have a good working instrument. Make sure you have a good working instrument, because it can be really, really disheartening when you're trying to learn on an instrument that's broken down. And I know that sounds like a funny thing to start with, but it really it's because one of the reasons why it took me so long to play the saxophone, because when I used to go and pick up the saxophone and play with the groups down in up in when I was in high school, the instruments, a lot of instruments were in disrepair, and so I go and I pick up a saxophone. And it wasn't fun to me because it's like notes wouldn't be coming out and stuff. So the minute I got done doing what I was supposed to do, that thing went back in the case, and I'm like, I'm back in clarinet. And I remember when I was in college, my first year in college, when I was in that stage band, I remember that the lead alto player, he's a lawyer now named Ted Barthel. He got all excited because he's like, "Hey, you got a Mark VI. That's like the best saxophone in here." And and I'm like, and so I'm playing it, and I could barely play the thing. And I'm just like, well, if this is like the best saxophone in here, and I sound like this, I must really stink. I'll never be a good saxophonist. But the good thing is that I finally did obtain. Obviously, it's a Mark VI. I'm sure the horn was absolutely killing. Now I know it probably had some rip pads and stuff. Right. But then back when I was playing with Elvin, right? Keep in mind that I was very, very poor at the time. My first year out with Elvin, I'd take my saxophone and I'd take wads of toilet paper and wet them and put them under my pads so my pads would swell up enough so I could play the thing. And that's how it was. When it was like really, really, like it was like a real struggle just to get the thing to do what I wanted it to do. And then I went to one time we were playing in New York City, and I went to I believe it was Perry Ritter's shop, and something happened. I just needed a little bit of work done, or actually I needed a lot of work done, and I didn't realize it. But he fixed some things, and then all of a sudden I'm like playing. I'm like, wow, man, I feel like I just improved like 10 years. Yeah. And so then I learned from that. I learned that a lot of the things that we have problems with on an instrument, a lot of it comes down to the maintenance of the instrument. And so if I would have gotten on that sooner, my playing would have progressed much, much faster and much earlier.
Yeah, maybe the struggles that you went to produce the sound that you were getting and find out all that stuff, maybe because you had to struggle so hard at it, maybe that got you to the point where when you did get a good instrument, it was just easier to let all that stuff out. I mean, that's another.
Maybe I don't know, but to this day, I'm really fanatical about my instrument. I've got like a whole like workshop in my practice space where I've got a leak light and I've got all these tools and stuff, and I do a lot of maintenance myself when I have anytime. I mean, I've got a really, really phenomenal repairman, Ken Beeson, who's in Asheville, North Carolina. He's like really, really like world class. And so if I've got anything major, I go to him. But I'm always like doing little things, the tweak things if things go out, so I don't have to make that journey if anything goes wrong.
I finally got Steinway a few years ago, man. After all these years of having sort of subpar instruments, I finally got it. It's an old one, but I got it fixed up. It's from 1918, but I got it really rebuilt and fixed up. And what a pleasure to have a nice instrument to play.
Yeah. But I would say that's the first thing. And as far as what I would tell a young player, and then after that, then we really have to get down to fundamentals about just groove and swing. Yeah. I think that's just very, very overlooked. And a lot of people might think of that. So, well, that's just like some basic stuff. We'll just kind of fluff over that. But I'm really, really adamant about that. Really, really looking at the different ways that people approach swing. You look at Stanley Turrentine; he approached swing different than, say, Freddie Hubbard, and who they all had different. Wynton Marsalis has it's like basically as you study all these different players and check out their different approaches to swing. Then it gives you kind of an arsenal of approaches, and you want to think about you also want to think about it as far as are we about how do we lock up with the quarter note? How does our eighth note feel? How does that help our swing? How do offbeats help our swing? How do we swing when we're doing 16th notes? How do we swing when we're playing slow tempos as opposed to up tempos? And all that stuff is really, really important. I mean, I think it's obviously we have to play our harmony right. We have to do all of study rhythm, harmony, melody. But a lot of people really, really overlook like the groove aspect of really trying to make the music feel good. And the thing I've found is that if you can make the music feel good, then your audience will forgive you for a whole lot of other stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I tell my students this all the time, man. You can know every note in the world and every scale and every chord, and you can have all these chops and everything. But if your playing doesn't feel good, other musicians don't want to play with you, first of all, And that's what you want, is for other musicians to want to play with you. So I'm always, same thing you said, I'm always trying to get them to work on their feel. And that's, I'm not a drummer, but I got a drum set here. When my students come over, I play with them just to show them what it feels like to play with a swing feel, and I tell them the same thing you said. And I think it's important to be able to play some groove music and just to swing,
Yeah.
It's important, man. So I got a question for you as a teacher myself. One thing that I find interesting is, like, I teach at a university too. I'm just an adjunct, but I teach at private lessons at a university, and my students are usually classical pianists,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a challenge getting them to get a feel for playing jazz. And part of it is just the phrasing that's involved, So how do you approach teaching students about phrasing? That's a real trick for me.
Well, you see, that whole thing from going from classical to jazz, I can relate to that because that's what I did. And the thing that I had to really learn is that there are a lot of things that are considered to be really unmusical in classical music that are like ultra hip in jazz.
Necessary.
And first, there's something. Excuse me.
Even necessary, not just hip, but necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some things that are considered to be super, super hip that a lot of classical players will be like, oh, no, never. And so it's kind of like you kind of have to look at it like you can learn the harmony, you can transcribe and learn some of the some licks and stuff like that, but but you're always going to sound like you're from a different country if you don't really learn the nuance, if you don't really learn how to groove, how to swing. It's kind of like if you have someone from like, say, like, I'll just pick a country like Bulgaria or something like that. I don't so you have someone from Bulgaria and they learn English, right? But they're first generation, but they don't really learn accent. And you can tell like who's first generation, but then they have kids that have maybe lived here all their life, and they speak English with the same nuance and stuff that we do here in America. And you can tell which one has lived here all their life and which one is actually from somewhere else. And of course, that can apply to any country. I just pick Bulgaria, but it's by the same way. If a classical person goes from classical to jazz, they have to really commit themselves to learning the nuance and not just learning the language and not just learn about it, but really commit themselves to it. And here's the thing, right? All right, you take someone like Tom Holland, for instance, like playing Spider-Man. I saw that first movie, and I had no idea whatsoever that he was not an American because he spoke because his American accent is so authentic sounding, and the first interview I saw with him, and he's speaking with this British accent and stuff. I'm like, whoa, oh, I didn't know. And so it's kind of like it's kind of like the same thing with jazz. If you're gonna, you can be a great classical player, but then once you start speaking jazz, and you gotta like speak the nuance too. I mean, like, and be able to get gritty and be able to get and be able to get ugly when you need to be and stuff like that. And a lot of people they don't want to do that. I know, like, at first when I was first starting off on going from classical to jazz, I didn't want to learn all that because I thought it was going to ruin my classical chops. But now when I have to play classical, it all comes back. It's like riding a bike. So it's kind of and Wynton Marsalis is a great example of that, how he plays both so beautifully, and other examples I could cite where they it really is about being authentic to whatever genre you're going to play. And if you're not going to try to be authentic, then maybe just stick with whatever your first musical language is. So
yeah, it really is like a language, like learning a language, learning the nuances. Mm-hmm. And what I always tell my students, first thing is you got to listen to this. If you want to learn to play this music, you got to listen to it. I mean, how are you going to learn this music if you don't listen to it?
Exactly.
You got to find some people that you like and listen to them a lot, and get a feel for what they're doing. How are they? It's like you said, it's like a language. That's the language you're trying to learn. So you got to hear it. You got to get it in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you got to, at some point, you got to play with other people, because this music is about playing with other people too, right? It's not just playing by yourself.
Yeah, I forget.
I do all this. I play piano, so I can play by myself, but I still play by myself as if I'm playing with other people.
Yeah. But that really was kind of like I forgot to mention, like, when I moved down to New Orleans, that's when I noticed that a lot of these cats that turned into these well, a lot of them were phenomenal already, but I saw some other people come down there that started off okay, but over a very, very quick time period became like just amazing, right? Mm-hmm. And I found that a common ingredient was really a commitment to really doing a lot of listening, doing a lot of transcription, that is learning on your instrument, and playing together as much as possible. And it was, of course, learning your theory, and other aspects. But those are kind of like that was like a common ingredient among a lot of the players that I saw get to be really, really great players in a very short period of time. And so that's how I approach when I teach. I try to draw from that. I try to draw from all the different experiences. But that's the core of where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's great. That's very helpful and interesting. Yeah. So I'd like to know more about your current projects. I know you're playing a thing with Bill Frisell, and that must be cool to do. And
we have a quartet project that's coming out. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, or maybe a week or two, really. And it's Jonathan Blake and Gerald Clayton, Bill, and myself, and it's on the Blue Note label. I feel good about it. I feel good about it. It's excuse me.
Look forward to hearing that.
Oh yeah. And then at the same time, I have a CD on the WJ3 record label, and that the name of the CD is called Sufficient Grace, and it just came out like maybe under a month ago, and that features obviously myself, Marcus Printup, great Marcus Printup. Yeah, and then Keith Brown, who's the son of Donald Brown, phenomenal pianist. Sean Conley, who people that are familiar with my music know that he's on probably about 80% of my projects. We've been doing stuff together for pretty much since '98. And then the great Willie Jones III on drums, who's also the producer. And so it's all original compositions that are more or less in a little bit more of a swinging, more of a swing, or more bebop swing vibe.
Cool. It's all your original music.
It's all original music, and I wrote at the time. I basically was doing two projects at the same time, and one of them I wanted to be a little bit more traditional. That's a little bit more swinging. That's this project, and then I also was working on a 10-tet composition through composed composition. It's a suite that's based off of the classic novel The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Yeah. And it's 10-tet's got like strings and it's trumpet, trombone. I'm playing pretty much evenly the saxophone and clarinet, and I've got a bass clarinetist in there, piano, bass, drums. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, flautist too, really great flautist, and so that's some very, very through composed music. We did. I was able to do that through a South Arts grant, and that's and so that we premiered that last. We premiered it in March, and so that's we did two major shows. We had a big residency, and so now at this point, I'm going to be looking for funding to try to record it, or if I don't know if there's a label that be willing to pick it up. I don't know. It's going to be an expensive project because of that. 10 people. 10. It's gonna. That's a little bit more difficult. So, but I'm hoping to have that recorded within the next year, if not sooner. And that's my baby. I really, really, I feel very, very good about that project. So
good, man. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you got a lot going on. That's great, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's just very, very, feel very, very blessed. I mean, like, it's been a very fruitful period. I'm actually about to go in the studio. I'm about to go in the studio to record my first all clarinet project.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it's a little, excuse me?
What's that about? Like, what's the music like?
It's a lot of originals. And there's I'm just going to try to turn this mic up a little bit here. Yeah. Okay. I'll be here. You better know. Okay. There's a lot of originals, and it's right. I've got a good band. We're gonna have Tabor Gable on piano, Alvesta Garnett on drums, Matthew Parrish on bass, and Regina Carter will be guesting on some of the songs. And so So I'm really I'm preparing for it right now, and it's it's a little scary going in there without
Sure.
without the big horn, but I'm ready to jump in. I've been wanting to do this for years, so it's really looking forward to. I'm really looking forward.
That's cool, man. Well, I want to ask you something in particular. The first time I became aware of you was on a couple of Andrew Hill records that I really love. One's called Timelines, and the other one I can't remember the name of right now. I'm forgetting, but about the same time. And I was just blown away, man. Especially Timelines is one of my favorite recordings, man. I think it's just great. I'm going to ask you about that experience about playing and recording with Andrew Hill.
Yeah, Andrew, that was a very special experience. Playing with him, getting to know him, getting mentored by him, and he unfortunately, we played on and off for about 8 years, so that was probably my longest, one of my longest, I'll say, because of one of my longest musical associations, and it's which got cut short when he died of cancer, fortunately. But but I'd say that particular experience, as well as my experience playing in Dave Douglas's various bands and some, I'd say that they really opened me up a lot.
Yeah.
Before I played with them, I would consider myself to be more of a straight ahead player. I also, there are some other experiences too. I did some things with Rashied Ali and a couple of things with Andrew Sorrell, a great drummer named Susie Abera, and some others. But I'd say that my association with Dave Douglas and with Andrew Hill really opened me up, both as far as my playing goes and as far as compositionally my approach to composition. And but Dave and Andrew obviously were coming from different places, and so it was just kind of very, very vast different experiences. But I'd say to play with Andrew was also like we had a very, very good friendship, and I miss him very, very much. And it's just to really, really get into his head and the whole creative process. It's just like it was very deep. It was very, very deep.
Yeah, one of these days I want to talk with you in more detail about all of that, because I'm interested in that. I just listen to his music and I think, wow, it's so beautiful, man. But what was going on in the studio, like when he was recording those records, In fact, I had a brief conversation with John Abear. Is that how you say his name? Yeah, just text or emailing back and forth. And I said, man, did he count them off? Did he count those tunes off, or did he just start playing? Or he said, no, everything was written out and we counted everything off. But it was just, the approach was just so free,
Yeah. Basically our charts were just more or less launching pads for improv. We could play inside of it. We could play outside of it. We can. It was a very John Emack and before that when Rashied Waits was in the band, and just Charles Tolliver. It's like it's like there were a lot of things that were just unspoken, right? There were just things that we all just kind of felt musically, and then Andrew, he would never want things to get too set a certain way, and right when something would start to get set, then he would change something up, because he was surprised. It's like, for instance, there's one song on the project that we had always done, super high energy burnout type of thing. And so we go in the studio, and I can't remember the name of the song, but we went in the studio, and then he basically said, okay, today we're going to do this as a ballad. And then kind of like that. No preparation. Just went in like that. And just like, wow. Okay. But he would do that stuff all the time in order to get us to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And we'd have like things we would do on our live, not so much on that project, but we would do things on our live performances, and he would throw curveballs in all the time, right? Change the order of things around and change the vibe up and things like that. And occasionally there would be these train wrecks, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I learned is that sometimes when things would break down, then we'd all be trying to find each other. And then some of the best music would happen in that whole course of trying to find each other. Yeah. And so it was really kind of deep. I really missed those days a lot. And also it really meant a lot to me, the amount of, I felt like Andrew really believed in me, and I felt like he was always trying to encourage me. And we'd have these long conversations, and most of the time we weren't even talking about music. We talk about life. We talk about life. We talk about spiritual things. We talk about business things, and but it was never like one of those things where he sit down and it's like, okay, I need you to play more like fill in the blank, or I need you to do more of this and more of that. But it's like, but a lot of the stuff that it was the same thing with Elvin, right? With Elvin, I felt that a lot of things would be taught without words. A lot of things would be taught words. Yeah. There were things that Elvin would clearly communicate through his drums, and then you just, if you heard it, then you went with it. And it's the same thing with Andrew. I mean, it's I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's kind of like one of those things where I think that's how a lot of those cats would operate. It's just a certain thing that I learned a lot from those guys, and not all of it I really know how to explain.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, not all of it I know how to explain. I just know that I know what to do in those situations. And I mean, I really hope I get to play some more. It's been a while since I've done something a little bit more like free, like the stuff that we used to do in any of those groups. And I'm hoping to get back to that at some point.
Yeah.
My Pilgrim's Progress suite has certain aspects of that, but I'd really love it to get all the way back at some point.
Yeah. So, let's try it sometime, man.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I'd like to do more of that too. With my trio and just in general.
Yeah,
it's hard. I feel like the more freestyle thing is kind of harder to do by yourself. I mean, it helps to have other people to play off of.
Yeah,
having a conversation. And in fact, I just did an interview with my bass player in my trio last week, and we were talking about this.
Yeah.
That that's like the sort of the pure essence of this music is when you just start playing and listening to each other. And just, like you said, trying to find each other.
Yeah, exactly. And then and if you really have a good foundation in the music and in music in general, then it just opens up. Like you can go all kinds of different. I mean, that's one of the things I really dig about the group that the group that had just did this project with Bill, that quartet, is that every single one of those guys, they all have a strong foundation in the tradition, but they all have they can go all kinds of directions, go free, go various different styles, more of a blues, funk, whatever it is, and then also they all have something to say that's unique to them. And that's really where the best music comes in. And it's one of the reasons why I hire a lot of the musicians that I hire, and it's like why Jamel Brown has been on so many of my projects on drums, and Sean Conley, and it's to be able to. I know that I can go totally straight ahead. I can go and do something like Squatty Roo, and they'll know what to do. But I can go totally open, some crazy, wild, open, free stuff, and they'll know what to do as well, and they'll thrive in all of those. And I feel like music is so broad; it's too broad to get limited.
Sure.
I only want to. I mean, I take that back. Some people are real great experts playing into a certain bag, and I respect that. Sure. There's some people that specialize and say, like, this is where I'm at, and I'm really committed to that. Some people that really committed to just playing bebop, or just playing old school swing, or just playing like whatever it is. I respect that. Or some people that are really into like mid-60s miles, or whatever. Right. That's great. I respect cats that can do that. I really do. I mean that sincerely. But but for me, I've always just been like, I just feel like whenever I start to get over here, then I find myself wanting to go over there.
Yeah.
And I'm over here, and then all of a sudden I'm over here, and it's like, I was like into like metal and stuff when I was in high school, and funk and stuff like that. And I already told you I used to play in a funk fusion band, and that all the New Orleans type of music that I did down there, second line music and all that. I mean, I miss all of it. I want to throw it all into a pot. Do it all. That's me, really.
It broadens you, man. It broadens your experience, right? Yeah. I mean, it opens you up, and it helps you. I think it helps you have compassion for all kind of different people too, right? Because this is a language, like you said, that those are all like parts of the language that we're speaking, right?
Yeah.
You up to, accepting every people that are different, or that do different things, and everybody's got different things they can do, and
Yeah. Amen.
Well, man, I really appreciate this conversation, and I hope we'll do it some more and keep it going. I still got a couple things I want to ask you. I want to give you the opportunity to talk about. I want to ask you if there's anything that you'd like people to know about you that you don't think they would generally find out just by listening to your records and going to your website. I mean, is there anything that like you mentioned, your spiritual journey? I don't know if that's something you're comfortable talking about or that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that most people that have checked out enough of my music will notice that I've got a lot of titles and stuff, these biblical titles. I mean, most of my music is they're either dedications to some people. I have written a bunch of songs for my wife, for instance, but I'd say the vast bulk of songs I've written have been for God, for biblical topics. Essentially, I've been a follower of Jesus since 1996. I gave my life to Jesus in 1996, and that's the most important aspect of my life. And that's when my relationship with God made possible through Jesus, my family, music. That's pretty much me, and I can't separate them. They're all together.
Gotcha.
So I would say that's which is why those things keep on popping up in my music, because I can only be who I am, and that's that. So
absolutely, yeah. I think it's important. I mean, everybody has to have some kind of direction. You know what I mean? Something that's like a guiding light in your life, right? I mean, you can flounder. It's easy to flounder around without having some kind of. I think we're all looking for meaning, right?
Yeah.
If you find that meaning for yourself, then that helps you have a direction in your life.
Yeah, and then also just thinking about like, oh, this is temporary. We're all here for a certain period of time, and then after that, there's what comes after that. And so which I really look at, like, my whole life. I know that there are things about my life that would separate me eternally from God if it weren't for Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, that make it possible for me to be able to come into His presence. And that's what I live for. That's what I live for is to basically celebrate Him for that, because that's so that's the essence of where I'm coming from with this. So
cool, man. Great.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say or talk about? Is anything? It was great, the things you had to say for young musicians. I appreciate that a lot, and I love hearing about your experiences playing with all these great musicians. I'll ask you one more thing. You said you got your hero there behind you, John Coltrane. He's one of mine too. When did you first hear John Coltrane, and what was it, if you remember?
Well, my brother turned me on to John Coltrane. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the basement of my parents' house, and it was Monk's Mood.
Okay.
Train and Monk together. And I remember just, it's like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm just like, bam, like, wow, you know? And I'm thinking, I have no idea what these guys are doing. And it's definitely different than the classical stuff. It's definitely different than the funk stuff. But I feel like I'm there already. It's almost like, I felt like that's home. That's home. All this other stuff I was doing, that's home. And it's like, and I found like, it was like in this distant land. And I felt like I want to find out how to get there because that's where I belong. And then after that, I heard Trinkle Tinkle. And then after that, then I started raiding my mom's record collection. And the next person I heard was Sonny Stitt. Oh, and I remember when I heard Stitt, I was kind of like, here's this guy that sounds great. No one even knows who this guy is. And I'm just like, but obviously I found out later on, he's like one of the greats. But I remember just thinking like at the time, I'm thinking like, no, like here's just some random guy that no one knows who he is. And he's like, and he sounds great, and it's actually this rare Stitt record. I think it's live at, oh man. I can't remember. You can't find it on CD. I wish I'm having a mental blank, but excellent, excellent. Playing with an organ group, and playing two tenor with one of the local saxophonists there. But it's very, very live. Obviously, a live performance, and he was just killing, and just like, man.
Right. He came to Atlanta once when I was in my 20s, or probably early 20s, and one of my friends played drums with him, and other local guys too, I think. And I just remember went to hear him, and somebody yelled out something like "Bird" or Charlie Parker or something, and he went up to the mic and he goes, "I'm Stitt," just like that. He was killing,
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's great.
Well, man, once again, I really appreciate you doing this. I'm glad we got to actually meet and have a conversation like this face to face, and I hope we get to play together sometime, and it's not that far away. I plan to come up. I want to come up and visit Donald anyway. I talked to Donald a couple weeks ago, and I know Donald well, but we've met, and we had a mutual friend. I used to play with a mutual friend of ours, Samurai Celestial, in a band years ago. And, so I'd love to get together and play with you sometime, man.
I'd love to. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, but thank you so much for doing this. I think people are really going to dig it, and I'll get it out there in a few weeks here. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up today?
No, just thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing it, man. Really.
My pleasure.
Thanks for checking out Notes on Jazz. If you want to communicate with me, I offer free consultations. Just check the podcast notes for a link. You can also find a link to my website for CDs, downloads, and videos. See you next time at Notes on Jazz.